Good evening, this is the March 26, 2025 meeting of the Newcastle Zoning Board of Appeals. First item on the agenda is an extension.
It's an extension of Waldo. Pardon my mask, by the way, I'm cold, so gotta be respectful.
You are,
I'm Robert Waldo.
okay, so Robert, come up and tell us
Yeah,
who you are and what you want.
so Robert Waldo, 19 Rose Lane in Chappaqua. I believe we first got approval in September. And that didn't really give us the appropriate amount of time for the project, given the winter. So I'm just requesting, I guess, an extension from now into the summer months.
How far along are you now with the project?
We haven't done anything as of yet.
Paperwork wise either?
Paperwork, I
Building
believe
permit or?
we're kind of in the process of getting that done right now. So,
Okay.
so do we have, I don't know if we have the permit.
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
Yeah.
We're just, it became, I guess there was an open permit from a previous project that we're working on getting closed. Which just came to my, I guess, awareness this week, so
Okay.
hopefully it's just, I believe it's a electrical permit.
So, what is your estimate as the time to get started and complete?
Ideally, like, April 15th through hopefully, November. That's the goal. I mean, we kind of have everything lined up. We have to obviously get the permit, but
Right.
have a contractor and a contract. So yeah, pretty much everything's teed up to go.
Sounds like you're starting right from scratch, nothing done from up until now.
Yeah.
Well, I have no objection to granting you, I understand how things happen, and especially with an open permit, trying to get that resolved. So if we give you till April 15th to get your paperwork in order, and until November 31st to complete the project.
Yeah, that would be great.
You comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll make that motion then.
I second the motion.
Thank you.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye. You have your extension, good luck.
Thank you.
And Liederman Brothers Wolf Trust.
Good evening. Geraldine Tortorella of Hockerman, Tortorella and Rexstein. We're counsel for the applicant. Mr. Liederman is here with us this
Letterman.
evening.
Right.
And, Letterman, excuse me, and Peter Scott, our civil engineer. We're here this evening. We were here back in July of 2023. We've been gone for a little while trying to sort out some of the issues that you had asked us to address with the stormwater management plan and dealing with the town engineering office. I know that I made a presentation at the time, but I also recognize that we have 2 new members. So as long as we don't take a long time, if we could just refresh your recollection on the facts, unless everybody feels comfortable that you have had a chance to review the materials that we previously submitted.
Well, I think you don't have to go into great detail, but I think a quick review would get it all back up to speed.
Terrific. Jackie, if we could just put the photographs up, if you wouldn't mind. So this is an application for a development coverage variance, which on numbers sounds like it's very large. And you would expect that when you were entered onto the property, you would see a sea of asphalt and large buildings and things of that nature. But it's actually the contrary what you see, and these photographs show that to you.
Sorry.
You enter the property, you see a cutting garden on the left, you see a beautiful landscaped lawn area on the right with all sorts of beds. And there's 16 photographs that we had submitted to the board, all of which show that this has been a beautifully landscaped and improved property. Our clients are avid horticulturalists and good stewards of the land. And what they did in the course of developing all of this gardening on their property is to, in places, strategic places, carefully lay stepping stones and gravel areas. They built stone walls to support planters and additional landscaping so that they could add greenery where they otherwise couldn't grow it because they have a very shallow bedrock on the property. And what we had, when you added up all of that additional stonework and paths and things of that nature, is we exceeded the development coverage. It came to light when our clients wanted to just make about 100 square foot addition onto an existing bathroom on the main level of their property. And when they made the application, a new survey had to be created, and it became apparent to everyone that there had been these additional improvements, which our client didn't realize were required approvals or were subject to any regulations. There had been this development coverage that had been created. The overwhelming majority of it is of the stepping stones and the stone walls and things that really are in support of the landscaping and the gardens that are on the property. It's a very steep property in sections. If you had seen some of the photographs or if you're familiar with the property, our client has worked very carefully in kind of making sure that they work within the confines of the topography of the property. So the house, for example, is built into the hillside, which means that there are multiple levels to the house. In order to navigate the property, the stairs were created to enable them to get around the property. Like very tasteful paths are taken to different improvements on the property into various garden areas. Part of the issue with kind of the calculation of development coverage is that when you calculate it, you basically have to put a box around the stepping stones or the gravel areas or the combination of the two. Even if they have landscaping that or grass or other vegetation that grows up in between it, and you calculate all of that and you add all of that up. And it accumulates very quickly. So we're here this evening because our client wanted to build this addition in order to create a handicap accessible bathroom. They love their property. They want to stay there for as long as they possibly can. Unfortunately, there is no restroom on the main level that can accommodate wheelchairs or walkers. All they wanted to do was add that little bit of additional space underground, largely underground, so not even really creating that much more in apparent impervious surface. And we were thrust into this process to try and correct the conditions that had been there. We are in a situation where, there are substantial setbacks from the property line. Our client has been very careful about the appearance of the improvements on the property from Deep Hollow Lake, because that's been very important to them too, and they've been very intent on kind of being good stewards of the land and making sure that the aesthetics in the area are maintained. So there's really no impact on anyone in the community. In fact, I think the neighbors love the improvements that have been made. The property is gorgeous when you drive by it and if you're able to see it. We are not proposing any substantial construction, so there's really no adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions. One of the things you did want us to do was to make sure that we could properly handle stormwater runoff on the property in accordance with the town code. And Mr. Scott is here this evening and can quickly tell you that we have done that. I know that you have a memorandum from the town engineer, hopefully you received it, where he has confirmed that our stormwater management plan does meet town code requirements. We're actually over capturing, over treating. So we are in a better position than we're required to by law. And we're really, don't really have an alternative. I mean, these improvements exist. It would be incredibly disruptive to have to rip them up. They're at-grade improvements. There's really just no impact. And for that reason, notwithstanding the fact that the number, percent deviation may seem significant, this is a very unique and distinguishable case where there really is no adverse impact. And so the size of the variance really is not something that should warrant or necessitate denial of the variance. As far as self-created hardship goes, as you know, that's not a dispositive provision. And in any instance where you have a situation where there's no adverse impact on community character or a detriment to neighboring properties, it's really not, the case law has indicated that it's really not a factor that should carry much weight in terms of, and certainly would not support denial of a variance. So we did our homework. I'm happy to turn the floor over to Mr. Scott if you want to hear any details about the stormwater management system that has been designed. Otherwise, we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the board? I don't think we need a lot of detail on stormwater management. We have a memo from our engineer approving it, but I think for the record, it would be a good idea to have your engineer just give us a quick look over, a quick discussion as how it was done, and we can move on from there.
Terrific, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Peter Scott, I'm an architect and engineer and I'm representing the applicant tonight. Just to put it all in perspective, basically, we looked at the site with Bob and we divided the project into pre-2007 activities and post-2007 activities based upon when the regulations were adopted relative to the impervious areas. And before you, I show you a red highlighted plan which shows what we discovered took place after 2007. And it totaled about 5,700 square feet of walls, patios, etc. on the project, and they're basically depicted as you see before you. The intent of the project then was how do we collect and treat these materials, and the only way we could do that in a manner that made sense, working with Bob, is that we decided that we would collect all the driveway, because when you're collecting impervious areas, driveways which are impervious create much more pollutants than a stone wall in among a bunch of lawn areas. So we picked the hottest point, they call it a hot spot. We picked up all the driveway areas and treated it, which is most efficient. And in doing so, we ended up collecting about 10,000 square feet of impervious area. And again, we've only added 5,700 square feet of impervious after 2007. What we did is we basically then put in a couple structures. A bioretention basin collects half the driveways. Infiltrators, which are underground, unseen, they collect all the parking lot areas in front of the house. And then we have a hot spot, which is all this walkways and walls you see on the far south part of the lot. That's collected with another infiltrator as well. And then for the little addition of the bathroom, we have a rain garden structure in place. Again, anything exposed to daylight is heavily planted. Everything else is underground, out of sight, out of mind. The soils were fantastic for doing all this. Very high infiltration rates, good treatment. And so in the end, the net of this whole study is we actually over-treated, which we installed by almost a factor of 2 since 2007. Everything will be has been approved by the engineering department. They're going to be there during the installation. They'll be there doing. We have periodic reviews required for plants, so it's a long-term maintenance criteria and inspection criteria over time. So it's not going to be it's not going to be wasted. It'll be basically updated, integrated into the rest of the site, and that's basically it. I do have a set of plans on a small scale. I was going to give them to the ZBA just for reference purposes, and I'll just give that in now if I may. It's just the approved plans from the engineering department.
Just one copy of the
One
other.
copy. And that's it.
So all these proposed improvements that you just discussed, have any of them been done yet? Or are you waiting
We have to get a permit
to get
from
finished here
all
and
the
get your permit
agencies.
and everything? Okay.
Right, correct, yes.
Alright.
There's one more item is we also are repairing some of the septic system for the project because some of the improvements, which I highlighted in red, happen to fall across components in the existing septic system. And we are updating it, and it's fully approved by Westchester County Department of Health. And it's a very minor component, but we're bringing everything up to speed at the current code with what you see on the site.
Thank you. Board,
Thank you.
any questions from the audience or online? Anybody online that wants to comment on this application? No, no hands raised. Nobody in the room? Before we go any farther, there's also one other question, maybe Ms. Tortorella can help us with that. there was something that had to be done about easements on the adjoining property, even though Mr. Letterman owns it. Are you aware of that, or is that gonna be taken care of, or?
Yes, so I have talked about that with John Lovelace. And we have discussed that the problem is that the properties are all in the same ownership.
Right.
Like there's unity of ownership. So we are going to convey the property next door onto which some of the drainage will be discharged to a combination of Mr. Letterman and the trust. And then we'll be able to create the easement and the obligation to maintain the stormwater improvements. And that also will run in favor of the town. So should there be a problem with those not being maintained in the future, then the town will be able to enter onto the property, make the improvements, do the maintenance, and then obviously charge it back, the cost of it back against the town. So I believe we have not undertaken those steps yet, but Mr. Levis and I had agreed on the scope of how we would accomplish that. And I don't know if you had a conversation with him.
I did speak to John and that was exactly what he told me was the establishment and recording of those easements and I guess the conveyance as well, right? So that would be, as far as from my conversations with John, those were the only remaining conditions.
So our building department, engineering department, and legal department are all on board with this. No other questions we have to make. Right. That's good. Get these resolved one by one here. Anything you guys have to say?
I have nothing.
Nothing? Okay. Okay, I'm going to make a motion for a straw vote on this, that we approve the variance request. Where the allowed development coverage is 18,458 square feet and the proposed is 33,477, which does sound huge. But in the light of this particular property, which is a very special property, with the slopes and the improvements that the homeowner has done, it's not dispositive because of the large amount. The differences. The work was done without malice, it was done to improve the property and it certainly has, so there's nobody who can dispute that. And there'll be no change to the character of the neighborhood or there's no other method that you could do to change other than giving this variance. It is a very substantial variance, but in this instance, it really is not to be taken into consideration. Physical environment will not be affected except positively, not negatively. And what I'm gonna do is just take a straw vote, and if whichever way we vote up or down, we're gonna have our legal counsel draw up the actual resolution, because I think this is intricate enough that it should be done for our protection and for the applicant's protection as well. So in that light, if you can call a straw vote on this, yea or nay? Yes,
May I
please.
ask one question? Our coverage calculations worksheet has the proposed coverage as 33,521, not 477, and I know it's not a significant difference,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure where the 477 came from.
that came from my calculations
Oh,
and
okay.
I'll take the 521, that's okay.
Okay, that's all right.
No, it's just that my spreadsheet sometimes rounds a little differently than your architect's spreadsheet or your attorney's spreadsheet or whatever, but we're all in the same ballpark.
Fine, I just wanted,
So if that's what you have on your application, I have absolutely no objection to that.
thank you very much, and thanks for allowing me to clarify it.
Thanks for catching it. Okay, so we're gonna take a straw vote on that.
Chairman Giordino,
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Okay, you almost have your variance. As soon as our legal team writes it up, you'll have it.
Great, and will that be considered at a subsequent meeting or?
Next meeting.
Next,
Okay.
yeah, and I can share a draft with you if you'd like, so take a look at it and we'll get it squared away, so next meeting should be.
Terrific, thank you very much, we appreciate it,
Good luck.
have a good evening.
You too.
Meredith, returning application.
Good evening, Board. Ken Anderson with Granoff Architects. I'm joined by my colleague Chabeli Rodriguez. We're coming back to you on 14 Wolf's Hill Road. Unfortunately, our client couldn't make it in previously planned engagement, so we're here to hopefully move this project along. Last time, we were here last month, if you couldn't recall, we were asking for a side yard variance, development coverage variance, and an FAR variance. Property on Wolf's Hill Road is an old farm house with a lot of the pre-existing outbuildings all intact. The building that we're talking about is right here. It's a barn. My client wishes to improve upon it in the same footprint and expand on one side of it and make it slightly taller than it already is. But the aesthetics of it are pretty much exactly the same as what it is, especially on the side that faces the side yard and the adjacent neighbors. This side over here will have some more glass and windows, but it faces inland to the majority of the lot. I should add, it's in a 1 acre zone, and it's a little under 3.2 acres in a 1 acre zone. You can see the elevations that we have here. The side that does face the neighbor is this side. There is a French door that there are existing steps in that area, or I should say it's an existing ramp. We're gonna change it to steps. That was the main barn door of the house. We are gonna put a similar barn door on sliding hardware so that, you know, it could be closed off. But other than that French door and this door in the gable, it's relatively the same of what's there. The red line indicates the existing size of the barn, and these are some pictures of the barn. The color is gonna be the same. It's a red stain and a white trim. We also, if you look at the site plan, there are wetlands on the property, but we did have Tom and Dennis come out to walk it. This is the wetland delineation, and the setback buffer area is out here. So all of our disturbance is outside of that buffer. I know there was a neighbor who was concerned about the view, but we feel like we're not being egregious with the increase. We're keeping the same footprint. We don't really wanna change our driveways. There's an existing parking court here with substantial masonry walls around it that are nice, that we don't wanna change. So we're keeping everything kind of where it is. We are planning on, our applicant is planning on planting some trees, you know, where he can. It is a very shady area. There's a lot of existing trees here, but they have very tall canopies, and it would be difficult to just, you know, plant right along the driveway. So he is planning to plant some trees up in this area where he can, but that's all he really can do. So we feel like it's not a self-created hardship. The barn's been there for over 100 years. The property's been there for over 100 years with all the buildings that are there. The only thing new, I think, was this pool. We don't think it's a detriment to the neighborhood. We think it's in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. The barn is gonna look similar to what it is. They're gonna just repurpose it for a home office and use for the pool, which is not too far away, and make a better garage. It exists as a garage, but it's really falling apart. I think Tom can attest to that. So they're trying to be proactive in saving a similar look in the neighborhood. So for all these reasons, we ask that you consider our variances, and if you have any questions, let me know.
Couple of questions.
Yes.
Excuse me. You keep saying you're gonna stay within the footprint, but you're adding to the barn.
I'm sorry, yeah,
So you're not really staying within the
No,
footprint.
we're staying in the footprint along the property line, and we're extending out to where it's actually further away than the shortest
Right, but
distance.
you are
So
increasing the
by the
size.
time we add the 6 feet to the building, we are in
we meet the setback. And then the height is the only thing that's changing within the footprint at the closest point. And I think what tripped us all up last week was there's two lots, last month, there's two lots. And through attorney Staraji, who's been helping us try to figure this out, I think we determined it is two lots and it's not one lot, or was there I don't know what actually
Yeah,
came
So
of that.
we'll address that.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what we determined was that the tax lots, definitely two separate tax lots,
Mhm.
were administratively merged at some point in the last few years, but
Oh, they
that's
were.
not binding on, you know, for purposes of rezoning purposes.
understood.
So there is no, you know, there is no record of this being a single lot, you know, for planning board purposes, which then, you know, translates to the problem that we were discussing last week. So we had some conversations, and we did some research. We've come up with a proposed resolution, which would be obviously depending on the vote of the board, there would be a contingency attached to any approval the board might grant, which would say that the applicant would have to go back to the planning board and have the re-subdivision approved. If the zoning board were to approve the variance, that would be attached as a condition, which would at least allow the project to move forward at the same time that the planning board application was being made, which should be fairly straightforward planning board process. So that's I think that's where we left it, is that what you understand?
My client has no problem with doing that. He has no plans to develop. This is a separate lot, but I understand if it goes to trades to somebody
For
else.
technical purposes,
Yeah.
we would like to see it
Yeah,
merged and
Of course.
solve any question in the future about
yes,
that.
yes, no,
Okay.
he is.
One other question, on the gable end
Mhm.
with that, is that a door or a window up on the high side?
This?
The one that faces the Hayrake Lane neighbor? That one up,
This one?
yeah,
That's just a window.
it is a window.
Yeah, it's a very small, like 2x2 window.
And what is gonna be up there? Is that gonna be a finished space?
Yes, he has sorry. This is the garage level, the main level where that door with the barn boards, that French door is here. The main entry to it is on this side, because it's closer to the house. And then there's a open to below here, and then that's that window there.
Okay,
And it's really above this there to get some light in, but it's gonna be a home office area upstairs.
with a high ceiling,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. I was just concerned about light pollution spilling over toward the neighbor's property, but
Mhm.
you said you're gonna do some tree planting, are they gonna be effective in minimizing that light pollution, or where
Oh, yeah,
where are
yeah.
your trees gonna be?
I don't know how many trees he's planning on doing some 6 to 8 foot conifers in this area here, but
Yeah,
you know, we can't really
could we put something there? Is it possible?
it's in the understory of an existing tree, an existing canopy. And I understand that the neighbor is concerned, however, my client, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, he noticed, it used to be, when he drove here, it was very lush on that property line. And then all of a sudden, like there was work being done and whoever, I don't know if it was this neighbor or someone before, they spent a few weeks and took out all the understory of the and we do have a picture of this is from the listing of that neighbor. You can see the
Where are
barn
you
here.
guys? Oh, you guys are over here.
And it was very lush in the back, and now it's all gone. Yeah, if you can share the photo.
This is from the neighbor, this is the
Oh,
barn, yeah.
is this this is the
Prior
prior
to,
lush,
prior to cutting all the.
prior lush. Prior lush. I just have a question, what is the additional height of the barn from the previous? Is that like 3 feet?
It's like, it's about 3.5 feet higher. And that's specifically to get the standing height for him to use that as an office.
Yeah, I understand. And just one other, like a Norway spruce would normally be able to grow if there's a heavy canopy above it.
Yeah, I mean, we're open to try things. I think what my client is concerned, he doesn't wanna tie a specific planting plan to the approval. In good spirit, he is gonna plant things, but if a Norway spruce doesn't work because of the you know, the shading, the neighbor has plenty of sun area now that he can, you know, revegetate what he took out.
That creates a question in my mind. I would like to see a planting plan, but I understand what you're saying about the need flexibility on something like that. I'm gonna ask my colleagues if they will willing to take the applicant's word about planting and I hate to see a formal planting plan tied to our variance requests, because then it's forever and
Yeah.
it can create future problems, which I don't wanna see happen. But if one of my colleagues decides that it's better, we'll all just discuss that, decide how far to go with that. What do you think?
I would say I think the homeowner was very forthcoming when he was here last meeting, so I think he's been open and amenable to what we discussed, so I don't have a concern without a plan.
Lauren?
I don't either.
Right. Okay. We're gonna trust your client.
Okay,
We wanna see as many trees as you can possibly put in there, reasonably speaking.
okay.
Hopefully creating a screening there. Okay, so we're gonna let that go.
Understood.
On this particular application, we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna vote whether we approve or deny, but we're not gonna do the formal motion tonight because I wanna be sure that the merger of the lots goes through as hopefully planned.
Okay.
And I'd like our legal team to write the motion. So part of that motion is going to be the merger of the property. And if that is all settled, we're going to require a foundation survey prior to putting up your barn. With a caveat in that if all the approvals for merging the subdivision and the stuff that has to be done is not completed by the time you're ready to start framing, we're gonna have to tell you to stop framing until you get it. So we're gonna give you enough time from now
Yeah, as long as,
to foundation completion to
Yeah.
get the other paperwork done. You know, and I know we can't do it overnight, but
right,
we want you to diligently work on getting the other paperwork completed as to the subdivision. Apparently, it should not be a big deal.
it's like an anti-subdivision.
Yeah.
It's like-
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
It's a
re-subdivision.
re-subdivision because the tax
Yeah.
lots, the tax lots are merged anyway.
Right,
I think it's more of a technicality than anything
Sure.
else. So you guys have to work on that diligently while you're waiting for your
Yeah, I-
building permit
Right.
to get your foundation in.
Sure.
By the time your foundation is in, all the other paperwork should be completed.
Mm-hmm.
If not, we're gonna have you stop until it is. Because
okay, so you're saying you will issue potentially a foundation permit that we can
Right.
do and compare, and then we'll just make sure, I don't know, honestly, I've never done that, a merge. I don't know how long that takes with the planning board. My guess is that it would be a relief to them to have to look
Well,
at
it
something like
depends
that.
it depends on the complexity of the merger.
Okay,
Your merger does not seem, and I am not an attorney and I'm not on the planning board,
yeah,
but your merger does not seem to be so super complex that it's gonna take months and months and months to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I obviously can't offer
Sure.
legal advice, but a merger without development is a simpler animal.
sure, sure. Okay,
So if you're okay with that?
Yes, we're okay with
We're
that.
gonna take a straw vote on your
Hold on,
application as well.
Tony.
I'm sorry, we have somebody, again, anybody online that would like to address this application?
No hands are raised.
No hands are raised, great, okay, anybody in the room would like to address this application? None, okay. I didn't do it before,
Yeah, do we close?
but should I close the public hearing now or after we do our vote? We should wait till we vote. Cause you're gonna draw up the actual document.
yeah, I think
I think
public
we
hearing should be closed.
Keep, close it now?
Yeah.
You think so? Okay, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Close the previous one too.
I will.
Okay, so the motion is going to be that we approve your application provided that your subdivision is done expeditiously. And we didn't vote out yet.
No.
No, so I'm gonna make the motion and then we're gonna vote.
Yeah.
We're gonna, our motion will state that the granting of the variance will not change the character of the neighborhood, can't be achieved by any other method. It is not a substantial variance in this particular instance. There's no adverse effect on the physical or conditions in the neighborhood. While this is potentially could be considered a self-created hardship, if so, the benefit to the applicant will far outweigh any perceived benefit to the neighborhood or to the town. You're gonna give us a foundation survey prior to framing, and you're going to stop at the foundation unless you have your subdivision completed, unless and until. We'll say you have 6 months to start and a year to finish.
My only concern is the planning board is like a wild card in that, so
Yes,
I
you're right,
don't,
you're absolutely right.
I assume I can come back and get
Okay,
a,
we'll give you 6 months to start and a year to finish.
okay,
If you get held up by the planning board, we're here, and I'm sure, I'm not speaking for everybody, but in extreme circumstances, we are very generous with extensions.
no,
Like we're gonna trust your
Yes,
applicants
yes.
to plant the trees, you're gonna trust us to give you extension if you needed it,
very good,
okay?
okay.
Alright,
So am I gonna second that motion? Is that a,
yeah,
is
you're
that
gonna
a
say,
formal motion? Okay, I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
okay, so we will have that written up by our legal team for the next meeting where we will officially vote on it if we all approve it. We what we'll do is we get a draft during the month, we all review it, make sure it's what we want,
Okay.
what we said tonight.
Mhm.
Next meeting, we will formalize the vote.
Okay, and my client is gonna hire an attorney to handle the re-subdivision, so maybe I assume with that draft copy of the resolution will come to the client or us or just have their attorney look at it.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, it'll come to, it'll come to the, to you as well as.
Okay, and that'll be before next meeting?
It'll be voted, it'll be passed at the next meeting.
Oh, okay, but I'm just seeing if we can have a look at it just
Oh,
before.
sure,
That's
yeah.
all, a draft.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, we can,
You
I can send a
you have
draft.
Chris's,
I do.
Chris Meredith.
Yep, I can send a draft in advance, that's no problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
See you next time.
Thank you.
Next up is Masood.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Philip Holland. I am architect for Shahed Masood at 25 Spruce Lane. I am Native Architecture here in town. We are asking for a rear yard variance for a existing frame shed. So a little bit of a backstory. We completed an addition that we started last year around this time, and it is now complete. It did not require a variance of any sort, it just required ARB approval. Upon submission of the site plan, it was identified by Mr. Lepole that there is an existing shed which was built some time before, I think during COVID a few years ago, before I was definitely before I started on the project, and it required to be legalized. And it also requires a variance. It is a pretty small shed. It's 10 by 12 feet wide. It was painted the same color as the house, it's sort of lavender. It is located parallel with a garage that is on the site that is very close to the property boundaries. So visually, it sort of forms a sort of it's just a logical visual spot. The site is also very steep, so you can see in the photos it basically comes down. It's just an entire site is a slope. When we did the addition, we had some 16-foot high retaining walls that needed to it's really limited as to where we can locate it, and we also don't want to put it in the middle of the property. It's a small shed, so the location next to the garage was logical, and that's where the owner put the shed. And it is, however, 10 feet to the property boundary. I do have a satellite image of the location. There are no rear neighbours behind this property. It is really, well, there is a property that extends around to the back, but it's sort of an odd shaped property. But largely it is a natural. The next neighbour behind it, I guess it's a valley, and then it looks like the temple is behind there. So there isn't anyone that would be particularly affected by the visual impact of the shed, and we hope that we can get it approved and it can continue to stay in its current location.
How long has the shed been there? Do you have any idea?
And I want to say like 4 or 5 years. I don't have the exact time when he built it, but like maybe 4 or 5.
So your client put the shed up, not the previous owner?
No, my client put the shed up, and he didn't know that
No permit.
variance or a permit for a shed. You know, I'm sure Tom see it all the time.
Understandable.
Is there a foundation or is it on pile or gravel or what is it?
It's on some railroad ties, just a small area that's been level and just placed on railroad ties and embedded on a flat spot. I think that there was an existing, you can see in the site plan it says a stone masonry retaining wall. My client didn't put that in, so I think there might have been, it's sort of a naturally leveled area up there, so it might have been something. Well, this is a very old property. When we were doing the renovation, we had to do a lot of new foundation work as it was just on stone and rubber.
Tom, are there any wind requirements for a building not being tethered to the ground?
The town of Newcastle's in a high wind region, but a structure of that size would not require it.
Okay.
Have you heard from a neighbor right on the other side of the stone wall?
We have not. We have not received any comments on it. I can step and just show you the sort of satellite plan. So this property here is a funny sort of shape that extends around, and this is the neighbour. So there's really no neighbours to the back. The closest neighbour is off to the side of the property.
Where's the shed?
Shed is this little
Oh,
red.
okay, got it, yep.
So it's off to the
Yep.
back. So as such, we have not heard anyone having any issues, but we did
Any
send
other
out a
questions from the
mailing.
board? Right. Anybody online that would like to address this application? All hands are raised. Anybody in the room would like to address this application? Yes, please come, Please
we're
come forward.
longtime neighbors, so
yeah, come
Barbara Katz.
come forward, please. We have to get you for the record. What is, let's state your name and what is it that you wish to impart to the board?
Barbara Katz, I live
Okay.
at 43 Smith Street. First of all, I never knew there was a shed. And I only knew about this meeting because we received notification. These are longtime, very caring neighbors. I'm very happy for them. I'm excited for their project. My only concern, because we live at the bottom of Spruce Lane North, is that any development not affect runoff. So that we would end up with more water in our basement than we get now, just because of the topography. So that's, but
The project in question is the small shed, which is
I understood
100.
from what we received in the mail that it was being improved on. That it wasn't just a matter of getting legal permission for it, but it said something about a single family residence. Did I misunderstand?
I believe that's the language that the town uses to just sort of clarify that there is a new construction. In this case, it's a legalization, but it is relating to the existing shed.
We thought it was being developed.
It
And
is-
so with that in mind, we just wanted to make sure that the architect had drainage plans. But it's a non-issue,
It's a nice.
so thank you
All
very
we,
much.
all we have in front of us is the shed, which has been existing for a number of years. No change to it, no additional
Well, I think the last time we
construction
were
on
up there wasn't a shed. We used to go wandering in the woods
it.
there.
I get it, I get it.
No,
I don't think there's anything to be super concerned about.
no,
Good,
luck to them,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
thank you for coming.
That's it. Building a shed, look up the setbacks.
Anybody else? The answer is no. I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second the motion?
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Anybody wanna jump
I
into
get it,
this?
okay, hi.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we consider this request for a variance from Shahid Masood and Asma Sultana for a rear yard setback of 25 feet for an existing shed that was put in 4 to 5 years ago that did not get the proper permits. The shed is next to the garage, it is on railroad ties. The location of the shed seems to be not near any other home. There has been a neighbor, Barbara Katz, who was questioned about the development of the project and I believe is satisfied with what she's learned. So therefore I move that we grant a variance, and the granting of the variance will not create an undesirable hardship or change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The benefits sought by applicants cannot be achieved by any other feasible methods, given that the fact that the building is already in place and it would be a large project to move it. The requested variance is substantial, but the shed is in place and it makes the most sense to the homeowner. It will not have an adverse effect on the impact or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. There are neighbors present who have questioned the variance and have been satisfied. It is a self-created hardship in the fact that the shed was put up by the homeowner in a location that required variance. Therefore, I move that we grant the variance for this. And do we need any kind of
The
site?
documents have been submitted already.
Okay.
In that case, I'll second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
You have your variance.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, next up is Lomans.
Hello, I am also representing Mr. Laumans and his wife Jessica in the improvements to their property. This one is a little has a little more complicated than the shed. So I will explain maybe the project itself for what we are applying the initial variance we're applying for, and then two other things were observed during the course of our application that we are also addressing in this in his zoning variance request. So I guess I will start with photos of the existing home. So when the original variant, when I applied for this property, when I applied for this, the only variance that I identified was an addition to the front of the property. As you look at the property on the right hand corner, it would be a front yard variance. Currently, the existing house is non-conforming. It has a setback of 56 feet to the corner. The road runs on an angle to it, and in a 1 acre zoning requiring a 60-foot setback. When we are doing an extensive addition to the back of the property, but also a little bit to the front, to give the property give the house a little bit more depth, and it's also located next to the primary bedroom, so it's a good spot to add some extra space. So this would be a small variance. It would not go beyond the front of the house. The addition would be recessed 3 feet back, just because we're seeking to maintain some of the colonial character of the house and sort of recess it back, and we're not looking to bring forward as most of the work is happening in the back. So we are also looking to add a portico to the front. We would not be altering the existing steps that you can see in the photo. The portico would be on top of those steps, but those steps themselves are currently in the front yard setback, 5.33 feet. So we are applying for a variance for those steps and that front section. So I did realize that there is a little bit of the rendering that I provided sort of shows this is the section that is protruding into the setback. The setback cuts across, and I took another angle of the model. So this is the addition. The top bit will come out 1 foot to match this overhang, and we're seeking a variance for this section here.
And it doesn't come out any further than the existing, huh?
It does not. It is set
Right.
back 3 feet
3 feet, okay.
behind. We believe it will give the house a little bit more depth and size. It's a sort of 70s Centre Hall colonial. So in the process of filing that, I did observe that the client at some stage, I believe in around 2020, had built a patio that encroaches into the side yard setback. So I identified that immediately and said that this would have to be legalized. So we did speak about to Mrs. Paul, and we submitted drawings to have that legalized, and are also applying for a variance for the side yard patio. I would just like to sort of explain that the reason that we are the site is tough, and even our addition sort of works around an existing septic field and drop. So if you look at the site plan, so everything on this property is really pushed into this bottom left-hand corner of the house, because otherwise everything drops back off. So as much as we would prefer to have a deck and a patio going straight out towards the back, this is really a spot that we would be building a patio even if he had not done so illegally, I would say, because it's really the only logical spot where you can step out of the building and onto grade. It's only maybe a few, like 2 feet below, so a couple of steps down. It is not a substantial patio. I believe it is 400 400 square feet. And with the additions, we do not increase, we do not go over the stormwater impervious impervious surface requirements of 1,000 square feet, so we're not applying for any development coverage. There is a fire pit there that we will remove as part of this work because the new project the fire pit would be too close to the home. It is an open fire pit, existing fire pit. As such, I feel that personally, I just felt that the patio itself will be complementary to the future structure, and I think it's worth addressing rather than modifying it in some way. So after sort of a lot of deliberation, we would like to seek a variance to maintain it as is and do all the required work with the building department to legalize it. Then, in the process of filing for the zoning variance, it was found that a shed permit had been open on the property and had not been closed by the owner. So when I took site dimensions of the location of the shed, I found that it is in fact in the side yard setback, I believe by about 3 feet. It is on the site plan, it's right at the back of the property. The client was assured that it was located correctly. However, I believe it is encroaching slightly on the side yard setback, not the rear yard setback, by about 3 feet. I think it's probably a placement error. However, if you look at the photo, it's located about as far over to the hills onto the hillside as possible. It sits on a concrete little concrete block. And in the process of this, we're closing out this permit. It was already open. It was a file permit. It is not a legal shed. However, I believe it is encroaching, and it exists, and we are seeking a variance for it. So, I hope I've explained the project. It's a couple of things. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So the shed, which is probably the smallest part of this whole application, but just for a question, the shed originally had a permit, but was never closed. Was the original permit for the shed to be in the setback, or was it going to be out of the setback?
No, there was, I believe the owner provided a sketch and he measured from the back. I think he just didn't locate it correctly. I don't think he was aware. The side yard setback isn't as visible because actually when you look at the survey, the fence on the property line is, I mean, the survey doesn't have the dimension, but it's probably like 10 feet in, so I think the client might have, you see adjoining fence line, the client might have assumed that was the edge of the property, and just he might have been doing that on an older survey, but he would have located it correctly had he have known that.
So what you're telling me is an inadvertent error?
I believe so. I saw the shed and I said, oh boy.
Has any neighbor, adjoining neighbor had anything input on this, pro or con?
No, I'm not sure if he spoke to him. I think that they're on good terms and no one has any issues. They're aware that the property is posted. They're aware. I do not believe that anyone has any issues with the project. It would be an improvement on the house. If you have a look at the photos, the current house, it's like a little shed addition that sort of has some funny roof angles. So I think it will be an improvement along that area. There's a lot of these little shed additions that have been added to the houses. So this project itself, I think, will elevate this home. So I think, and none of the bulk of the project itself is not requiring a variance, as that's set back correctly. It's really this existing patio, which will really act more as a landing after since there's a covered deck added to the back of the project. and the main addition is the front yard, the front setback really, that's.
Understood.
So where that bump out is, the new addition's going out as far as the existing bump out is, it's just going up and closer to the front. It's not going low to the side of everything.
I might just show I'll show on the larger site plan. So this is the existing house, this is the bump out going to the front.
Right.
And this is the setback line.
Right, so you're going to there.
We're just going to there, we're not bumping out beyond, and really the
Right.
whole house is clear of the side yard
Even it up.
setback. But this existing patio
Yeah.
is within the setback, and this shed, I think it was placed on this bluff here, and there's a, what's it?
Yeah.
Is there anybody online that would like to address this application?
Go ahead, Ray.
Nobody. Anybody in the room would like to address this application? Any board members have any other questions or comments?
No, sir.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordino.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Sure, I'll take this one. Okay, this
Thank
is.
you.
I'd like to make a motion on the application of Michael and Jessica Laumans. This is 617 Bedford Road. And this application seeks a series, it looks like 4 separate variances, well, essentially related to 3 things they're looking to achieve. The first is to legalize an existing patio and sitting wall building permit. That second, there was a shed that was constructed that was placed incorrectly, and there's also a new addition to the front of the home with a covered front portico. In order to accomplish these 3 things, there are 4 variances put in front of us. The first is with respect to the patio with sitting wall, there needs to be a 13-foot variance, a side yard variance. The setback is 35 feet requirement, and the proposed is 22 feet, so there's a 13-foot variance that's requested. With respect to the front addition, there needs to be a front yard variance, that's what's being requested, of 6 feet. With respect to the front portico structure, there is a request for a front yard setback variance of 5 feet. And for the shed, which was not correctly placed, there is a requested side yard variance for 3 feet. And looking through the factors that apply to this analysis, the granting of the variances would not create an undesirable change to the neighborhood. In fact, based upon the comments that were made today by Laumans' architect, it seems to be that these will be desirable changes to the neighborhood. Can the benefit sought be achieved by some other method? I don't think so. Certainly with respect to the shed, no, because it's already there. With respect to the existing patio and sitting wall, same. And with respect to the new addition, there are some challenges with respect to the property that indicate that this really is the only location for it. The topography and also the, I believe, septic fields that were mentioned. Are the variances substantial? No, they're not. They're actually across the board rather insubstantial. Will there be an adverse effect on the physical environment or conditions in the neighborhood? No, it seems to be that they would be improved. Are the alleged difficulties self-created? Yes, but that's not, there are reasons for that have been explained, and that's only one factor. It's not determinative. The benefit to the landowner would far outweigh any possible negative effects that would occur. And I guess, Tom, what do you need the applicant to provide to you?
the building department would request a foundation survey and a final survey.
Foundation survey and a final survey. 6 months to start and 1 year to finish.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
You have your variance, good luck.
Thank you. Jordy?
Hi, I'm Stanley Wong, the architect for 11 Aldridge. And we are going for 3 variances. We have a house that was built in a half-acre zone. It was legally non-conforming, it was built around 1908. It sits a little bit in the front yard setback, and over time, there's been some additions from, I think, 1944, 1942, that put the north side into the side yard setback. So we're going for those 2 variances, and we're gonna go for development coverage. So what we're proposing is, if we see, can you zoom in on the upper right? Move over to the right. No, the other way.
Sorry.
That's all right, yeah. So that's the property, and the heavy dashed dot lines are the setbacks. So you can see even at this view, the front of the house is just barely into the front yard setback. But over time, there's been some additions to the left, which is the north. So basically, it's a gambrel house, gambrel roof house with a small 1-story addition on the south side on the right, and a small 1-story addition on the left, which is the north side. And what we're doing is building a 2nd story over the existing footprint on the north. So we're really not changing the footprint of the building in the front yard or the side yard. So those are the 2 variances we're going for. We are also building in the rear, but that's as of right. Now the development coverage, we're existing, it's over because there's 2 driveways, 2 curb cuts. So there's a driveway that actually goes around the back of the house and then all the way to a rear garage. What we're gonna do is remove the north side driveway, which nets out to we're making the development coverage better. So the legal and non-conforming development coverage is actually gonna decrease, but still be non-conforming. And Jackie, if you could just go to A301 if that is possible. This is for a family of 4. Aldridge Road is a really nice cul-de-sac street, and the family would like to stay here. In fact, we have 3 letters of support from the adjoining neighbors, and I also have a 4th letter that I didn't make in time for the submission, but I can submit it if you want. Yeah, maybe it'll take too long. Anyway, I just wanted to show the front elevation of the house because it makes very
Let me stop sharing and then I'll reshare it.
logical sense of what we're trying to do. We've already gone in front of the BAR and we've passed, so we got that out of the way, and I have to disclose I'm a member of the BAR too, so. And might as well also disclose I also live on Aldridge Road, so. So I have to drive by it every day to go out of the street.
Still scrolling, just give me a second.
Okay.
One second, bear with me.
So it's the same before and after, so the top drawing is you can see the gambrel roof house with the 1-story addition on the south side on the right and 1 story on the left. What we're doing is just kind of creating, extending that logic of the house, extending the gambrel roof over the north side to the left. So it'll be in keeping with the existing house and keeping the 1 story on the south. So again, that 2nd story just happens to lie within the front yard and the side yard setback.
It's in the setback because it's existing.
It's existing, yes.
So you're
So
just,
the
you're
foot,
going on top of the existing, so
Exactly.
I get it.
exactly.
You're not encroaching, you're not no overhang to encroach even a little more.
Not making it any worse.
Good.
Yeah, and then the development coverage as I calculated.
Questions from the board?
If I read correctly, when you took out if you take out the north driveway, it reduces the development coverage by 433 feet, is that correct?
I believe so, yes, yes. The net decrease is 433 feet.
Obviously, there's nobody in the audience to speak to this application unless you wanna speak to your own application.
I'm all for it. I also have a 4th letter of support if you want me to enter that.
Okay. Anybody online would like to speak to this application? No hands are raised. No other questions from the board? Everybody
sir.
satisfied? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna do that.
I'm gonna take this
I
one.
don't care, I'll do it if you don't want.
No, you do it.
Okay, in relation to the variance request from Lisa and Dea Jordy, they are requesting, first of all, they're constructing a 1-story addition with a patio in the rear of the house, and a 2nd-story addition on the side of the house. The house is legally non-conforming, therefore they will require a front yard setback, a front yard variance of 1 foot. This side yard, they're requiring a side yard variance of 11 feet. And as far as development coverage goes, they're requesting a variance of for 738 square feet. The homeowner has and the architect have made a plan that they will reduce or eliminate, and the driveway's not eliminated yet, correct?
No, it still exists.
Right. So in their attempt to make the development coverage less onerous, they've elected to reduce one of the driveways, eliminate one of the driveways to the home. The front and side yard additions are not going out of the footprint of the home. Let's see. Therefore, I suggest the granting of the variance will not create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. Benefits sought by applicants probably cannot be achieved by other feasible method, but this makes sense given the scope of the land and the home. The requested variances are technically not substantial. I suppose the development coverage is a bit substantial, but it's the house is on a small piece of land. It will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions in the neighborhood. There are no neighbors who are present or have written in opposition. In fact, we have 3 letters of support with one, the architect has a 4th, which would put the neighborhood fully in favor of this project. It is a self-created hardship, but the benefits to the homeowner outweigh any of that. We need a what?
The building department would request a certified coverage calculation with an updated survey.
Okay, the building department would require an updated coverage calculation and an updated survey.
Yes, sir.
And that we would give you 6 months to start and 1 year to finish.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
You have your variances.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
And finally, 239 All Angels LLC.
Are they here?
Good afternoon, how are you guys? Good evening,
Good evening.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, now I hear you.
Okay.
So my application was regarding the floor we have in this house, which is when we purchased the house was already existing as a storage, but we turned it into a family room or a playroom, you can call it. We got approval from the health department because we have a septic and well there. And so the first application is we're seeking to approve that from the building department. And then the second application we have is this house is sitting on two different towns. Half of the house is going into town of Newcastle and the other half is going into town of Ossining. So the appeal was also to have the whole house under the Newcastle zoning.
So, in other words, we are in control of all of the zoning, even though it's in two towns? How does that work?
We are the authority having jurisdiction. I spoke with Ossining and they want us to take the lead on it.
Oh, okay, 'cause
A substantial part of the building is in our town.
that was my next question. I don't wanna step on Osling's toes, but if they're okay with that, we're okay with that.
We have previous zoning variances that were granted, giving us the lead agency on this.
Good. Okay. So was there a permit pulled for the rooms upstairs on the third floor?
Yeah, we recently have a permit to do the work. We closed the other permit that was open as a violation. We had a big time misunderstanding before because we were dealing with when we ordered the title, we thought that the house is under the town of Ossining. And we ordered the municipal from there, we never ordered the municipal from Newcastle because we didn't even know the issue that it's half and half. So we did not know that there was an open violation with the town of Newcastle, but we already dealt with it and closed it for the garage since 1997.
For the garage, okay. And so I'm a little confused. Is the room finished already or you haven't done it yet?
Yeah, it's all
It is
done.
finished, okay. And do we have any paperwork on that?
There is an application to legalize the use of the building now. There was a previous application for storage on the third story.
Storage only?
Yes, and there was a variance given for that use.
So the question now becomes if it's going to be used for other than storage. Does it meet the requirements, ceiling height, et cetera,
The building meets the requirements for habitable space. They are extending the existing sprinkler system to be functioning on the third story for habitable space. They will be meeting the egress requirements of the third story.
So you just answered my next two questions, sprinkler system and egress, very good.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's going to be a safety, not a safety issue, it's gonna be a safe environment for the third floor.
Yes.
I don't have any questions or any serious objections to this. Anybody on the board want to put anything into it? Anybody online who would like to speak to this application?
No hands are raised.
No hands are raised. Okay, make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the 239 All Angels LLC application to legalize the third story that their property at 133 Old Albany Post Road be approved for the following reasons. The applicant is in need of additional room in the house for their family and their personal use. This was already approved at one point for storage and has been updated and to meet the requirements for habitable space with regard to sprinklers, egress and ingress, and building department requirements. The granting of this variance will not create any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. There is no other feasible method other than the granting of the variance to achieve the desired effect. This is really not a substantial variance in this particular instance. There'll be no adverse effects on the physical environment. This could be considered self-created, it's kind of up in the air. If we consider it self-created, the benefit to the applicant will outweigh any perceived detriment to the town or to the neighborhood. Do we need anything to finalize the permits, or are you all set? Any other paperwork?
The town is all set.
Your town is all set, so you don't need any other additional paperwork. Is it already done? Everything is done?
It's in process.
So now we have to put some time on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're in process already with your renovations? How long do you? How far along are you? Or do you anticipate a long time, or?
It's just we're filing with the sprinkler system company to just do some upgrades to the system, that's all.
Okay, so if we give you 6 months to finish this project, you're comfortable with that?
Yes, well, hopefully we'll be done within the next couple of weeks. We're just waiting for this, and then the guy is gonna file for the permit for the sprinkler and then update it, that's it.
So we don't have to give you a start time, cause you already started. I'm gonna give you 6 months to finish, cause you never know what's gonna happen. So
Thank you.
Other than that, I think that we should approve it.
I second the chairman's motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
You have your variance, good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we need approval of the minutes. We have February 26, 2025 meeting minutes need approval. I make a motion that we approve.
I second the motion.
Chairman Giordina.
Aye.
Mike Nolan.
Aye.
Ron Genzeg.
Aye.
Warren Gottlieb.
Aye.
Kathleen Darazan.
Aye.
Move to adjourn. We are adjourned. Okay, we're off.